Okay, I'm now live. Alright. Hey guys, how you doing? What was I say here? I already forgot. Damn. Uh, welcome to my page. Actually gonna do it. Yes, son.
What you had the toaster oven?
What do you mean?
There was some food this morning.
Oh, it was last night actually. It was caramel apple squares. They were delicious. Sorry, I sent you something. You can eat it. Eat it.
Not bad.
No, I'm saying you have the same right.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm the greatest kid ever. Alright, go ice. Oh, okay. Sweet. What I thought. Alright, well, I'm a single mom. You just heard my son. Uh, and I want you to know, I tend to mumble, stutter, and have speech issues, right? I do the best I can. My son also has speech issues. I don't think they're because of me, but I could be wrong. The women in my family, especially my mom, talk really, really, really fast. It's almost like we're rapping. We're talking. I haven't done many of these videos yet, so I haven't quite fully got the hang of this stuff yet. And so, yeah. I guess I should say, because I hear this on a lot of videos, if you happen to come across my video and you like it, please hit the like button so I know it's liked or even watched. And if you want to watch more of my videos, subscribe. I tend to do all sorts of videos, or I try to, but my ADHD really focuses on my brain a lot. So I will start them and then forget them. Hi. Today we're going to do a reaction video. Okay, pull it up. This is Ren. I don't know if you know who Ren is, but I highly suggest you listen to him. I think he's an awesome artist. And just gonna do it.
Hello, everyone. This is the first time I've done something like this before. I wanted to write it down because there's a lot and I didn't want to miss anything. And some parts of this might be a little bit uncomfortable to listen to, but I wanted to stay as true as possible to the story, not miss anything, for the sake of people who might be going through something similar, or for the sake of people who don't, but want to help understand a little bit more. Yeah. I promise that everything in this story is 100% true. Nothing is exaggerated for dramatic effect. Some names I don't mention and some details I don't go too far into or downplay them for the sake of the people around me. Timelines might occasionally be a little bit off, but that's just because I've had to write everything from memory from a time that was quite hazy. I asked before embarking on this journey with me that you all respect the privacy of myself and the people around me. You might be compelled to reach out to some of the people that I mention, cast judgment, praise them, criticize them, and I ask you kindly not to. It's my choice to be in the public eye, and it's mine alone.
I'm actually gonna stop that right there because I fully agree. I feel the same way. So, if ever you see my son on here or anyone on here with me, I appreciate you just leaving us alone. With that being said, I do appreciate comments. I will answer comments as I come along.
This is the first time my story is on the public record in a concise way. Being in the public eye is strange. The more that I give to you, the less that I get to keep for myself. I don't find the experience of sharing particularly enjoyable. I don't so much like the questions that follow. And I'm not a medical expert, so I don't like to be seen as somebody with all the answers, because I don't have them. And because of the empathy that I feel, I'm compelled to try and help as many people as possible. But the last time I opened myself up to this on a one-on-one basis, I was surrounded by a lot of death. And there simply weren't enough hours in the day. So I ask you, if you need support, please reach out to a professional or use my music as your companion.
I'm going to pause right there as well. I personally, I do use his music as a companion. His music's really wonderful. I love it. And I think it expresses what is really hard to express, right? And again, if you are seeking help, that's wonderful. I want to commend you on that. Getting help is a hard thing to do. I know that for myself, right? So we could all use, everyone could use a little help every once in a while. Just saying.
I share my story in hopes that somebody who needs it finds it, that it provides hope, that it might ease the suffering for the people like me. I like my solitude, so I ask that anyone who respects the work I make and respects my contribution to the world to respect my solitude. A lot happened in my teenage years, and I didn't live the most normal of lives, but I'll save that story for another time. The important thing to contextualize this story is that I was full of life. I was full of a burning desire to change the world. The flaws in how we interact seemed obvious to me. I believed in people's power to change the unnecessary suffering we inflict upon ourselves. I was also enamored with music. Music is the closest thing to God that I have. It's a gateway to the unexplainable, and it's a way of communicating the inexpressible. There's just one moment that I want to share with you from the years before I got sick. I was 17 and I felt indestructible. I'm not sure why, but my whole life I had this feeling inside myself that I was meant to do something important, not for myself, not for praise, not for personal gain, but something that would change the world for the better. It's hard to describe it without coming across like an egomaniac or having some sort of God complex, but I felt like I had some sort of divine purpose. And I remember feeling this so strongly that one afternoon after school, I stood in the center of my bedroom and I spoke loud into an empty void. I said that I would single-handedly take on and defeat the forces of evil, and I welcomed them to try their best. Throughout the years, that memory stuck with me, taunting me sometimes. Flash forward to 2019. I remember the first day I knew something was wrong very well. I woke up in an unfamiliar room in Cardiff, feeling like a raven had perched itself upon my heart. Every time my heart beat, it's like some part of me was aware of the foreboding death sentence that was to come. Some sort of primal instinctive dread. Everything felt wrong, and I felt prosthetic, like I could tear my own skin off and observe, though I was watching passively from another room. The night before, I'd been in Cardiff visiting friends in university. It was the end of summer. We'd gone out to a few bars. I wasn't really enjoying myself. That year, I'd been struggling with social anxiety, perhaps from years of abusing my brain with a whole pick and mix and selection of party drugs. Engaging with society felt like stepping into the ring with a heavyweight champion. Every single fucking question felt like an oncoming haymaker I had to socially navigate because of my very limited toolkit of charisma at the time. I don't know why I cared about being liked so much, but the more I cared, the less equipped I became to have a simple human conversation. I used to deal with this by getting fucking hammered. That night was no exception. I got smashed, lost my phone, and woke up in a strange apartment. In the bed opposite mine was a snoring rugby player and his girlfriend.
Sick of all the ads like this one? Just head to adskiller.com, click on Activate Now, add AdsKiller to your browser. Confirm.
Just gotta say, like, yeah, that's really fucking annoying, by the way. You do. I don't know why. I don't know why you guys have to have ads. I get it's so you guys can make money, but come on now. How much money do you really make off those? That's really, really annoying. That's why I personally, this is not an ad, but I personally use LGE, I think it is, blocked. Let's see. That's interesting. Yeah. LG block. See? You guys can see that little. Right now, the things the little orange Lego block. That's what I like to use when I'm not on YouTube to do YouTube. Because it will get rid of all the ads for me on my phone. It works really wonderful. Just saying. But YouTube, you suck. And side note on what he was just saying, I understand that. I used to do that. I don't know how many of you guys have. I used to get so wasted just to be able to be a part of society because of all the crap that was going on in my life. It's the only way that I can ignore it. And for some reason, especially, at least where I've lived in my life, and I've lived in a lot of places, where I've lived in my life, alcohol is like the number one acceptable thing nationally. It's really weird. It's so toxic.
Everything just seemed off, and it wasn't a hangover. My first thought was I'd been spiked. I quietly gathered all my belongings and left before anyone could wake up and punch me with a conversation. I wandered around a grey Cardiff in the haze, feeling like I've just been rigged up to an IV bag full of ketamine and cyanide, and the whole world just seemed off, like I was looking at it through a tunnel. A heavy feeling of fear clung around me like a straitjacket. The only comforting thought was that with enough time, rest, and water, it would pass. But it didn't. For 8 long years, it didn't. And this is my story of an 8-year-long nightmare. I returned back to my dad's home. He was living with his partner at the time. It wasn't my home, so I already felt uncomfortable and out of place. These unusual symptoms persisted. I figured I'd caught some sort of virus and I'd get better with time. But by the end of the week, things were a lot worse. I took myself to the doctor and he said he thought it sounded viral, that if I went home and got enough rest, it would eventually pass. And it didn't. For 8 years, it didn't. I returned for my second year of university. My brain was full of fog and my body felt poisoned. There were intermittent days where I felt like a hollow suit of skin. I'd sit in lectures unable to focus and was devoid of any sort of personality. I'd be able to have basic conversations, yeses and nos, but I was stripped of the ability to think spontaneously. It's like my body was taking up so much processing power being sick that I could not have original or spontaneous thought. The most peculiar thing about this was there was a me that was aware that this was all happening and was observing it from outside of myself, locked out, screaming silently, banging on the walls of my mind to be let in, and never successfully. And nonetheless, there I was, like a ghost haunting myself. My usual routine was getting home, running a shower and curling up into a ball to cry underneath the running water, not understanding what was going on. I brought myself to the doctors numerous times during this period, requesting every blood test they'd let me have, often being dismissed and told things like stress from university can cause strange symptoms. But how come no one I knew in university could relate to this? Eventually, I was put on a 6-month-long waiting list to see a mental health specialist who did a short 1-page questionnaire and wrongly diagnosed me as hypercycling bipolar and put me on a course of
I'm gonna stop it right there because that is one of my biggest pet peeves about society. Like, I don't know if any of y'all remember, but I remember learning about. But back in the day when mental health was first being used or researched, really, because of course, we learned a bunch of other stuff before we learned mental health. But back when mental health was first being researched and all that funness, if you came out gay, whether you're a man or a woman, you went to the mental hospital, and they would literally destroy your brain. They would do electric shock therapy. They would do all kinds of horrible, horrible, horrible tests on you before they would finally do what's that called, lobotomy. If everything else didn't work, they would lobotomize you. And that's horrible. To this day, there are probably thousands, if not millions, of people being misdiagnosed. And it's absolutely horrible. When I was going to therapy for a long time, and I went to therapy from like age of 6 to about 5 years ago, and I'm 38, so about 33 years old. On and off, right? Between those years. And I must have said it to a dozen different therapists that I had that they were mentally insane. And I said this to them because they were trying to blame my problems that I had, like my ADHD, or they called it bipolar disorder. I don't think I'm bipolar. Like, I think my mood is stable for the most part. And I've had a lot of people tell me that I'm right. That it just depends on the environment that I'm in. I mean, but that goes for anyone. Whatever environment you're in is going to change your mood. So if I'm in a crazy, chaotic environment, my mood's going to be crazy and chaotic. If I'm in a calm, loving environment, my environment's going to be calm. My mood is going to be loving and calm. With that being said, I was put in mental hospitals. I was put through all kinds of shit, just like he's saying, and on so many medications. A lot of medications. There's no reason to do that to anyone. If you don't know what the problem is, and you're just pulling tags out of a hat to figure it out with medications, don't do it. I have friends of mine who have to change their meds every 3 months because what they're taking doesn't work. Rather than let them be them and try to help them change their environment to what they want it to be, they just try to medicate everyone. And I'm so sick and tired of that shit. I'll start ranting now and I'll let him go back. Sorry. Mute. Oh, just freeze up on me.
Citalopram. After a few weeks, it stole my ability to sleep. I was told to stick it out and it would level out, and eventually I'd feel more like myself. I stuck it out and I got worse, and I pulled myself off it after 2 weeks in a row of sleepless nights and insomnia.
$30,000. That's how much inflation is costing Nevada families. Gas, groceries, housing, all thanks to Washington Career.
There's something pretty peculiar about being told you're in some sort of spectrum of madness. Even if you suspect that you're mad, your diagnosis finds a way to claw itself into your identity, even if it doesn't belong to you. Ever since I was a child, I'd always be asking what and why and how things worked. I couldn't really accept things as they were without knowing how. I carried into my adult years, and so as the bipolar hammer crashed and sentenced itself into my reality, I began searching online for behaviors associated with it, people's first-hand experiences, what it felt like to be manic. In these earlier days of my illness, the symptoms would fluctuate in severity day by day. Some days I'd be in the thick, tired fog, and other days they'd be more merciful. I began to associate the days of not suffering as mania and would act more erratically on the days that my symptoms were less bothersome. I did things like climbing out of windows of a 6-story student accommodation or get so drunk I'd wake up outside of the university campus lawn. But it wasn't mania. I just wasn't hurting. I spent 1 day a week with my therapist, who was teaching me cognitive behavioral therapy. The issue was mentally reframing unexplainable symptoms caused a lot of cognitive dissonance for me. I was told my anxiety or depression was causing my symptoms, but in reality, it was my symptoms which were making me anxious and depressed. So I was in some sort of inescapable bind. I devoted
Exactly what he just said. Like, that's what I was just talking about. Like, instead of therapists, like, taking a real look into what's going on in our lives, they try to blame our depression or anxiety on what our issues are, instead of actually figuring out what is causing the depression? What is causing the anxiety? And it's fucking bullshit, man. Like, a lot of years. So many damn years. Like I just said, I went to therapy from 6 years old to 33, pretty much. A couple years off. You know that, right? And finally, when I was 33, it was actually after the last mental health office visit I did, and the last mental health hospital visit I did. Spent 4 days there, right? What caused me to go in there, though, wasn't my anxiety. It wasn't my depression. It wasn't like I was suicidal. I was actually homicidal. I was homicidal for a good fucking reason. I was homicidal because I was raped. And I wanted to go after the person that did that to me. That's understandable, right? Thankfully, a friend of mine stopped me what I was doing because I was on my way to kill multiple people. So I figured if I'm going to prison for one, I'm going to go to prison for them all. I went to the hospital instead. Mind you, I had been on Wellbutrin, amitriptyline, what's that? Trazodone, lorazepam, and a bunch of other medications at the time, right? But all that shit did was make me fucking crazy. That's all I can say. Made me crazy, made me psycho. I'd have 1 minute where I was totally fine, and the next minute, I'm crying. Not a clue what's going on. And the next minute, I'm wanting to stab someone, right? I went to the mental hospital. After 4 days, they gave me some new meds and took me off the old ones. Which, when I left, I felt good. I mean, I know it was medication induced, but I was happy with my world for the moment, right? 2 weeks later, because that's how long they gave me meds for, I went back to the doctor. The one that put me on the meds before. And he asked me how the new meds were feeling. And I told him how good I felt, how stable I felt. I wasn't, over the top. Like, I felt good. And he decided that day that he was going to drop those meds. They made me feel normal. And put me back on the meds and made me crazy. And I lost my shit. I should have told him what a horrible, horrible doctor he was. And this was on recording, by the way, because he recorded our sessions so that it could be in his future book or whatever, video, whatever. I should have told him that he was the worst psychiatrist that I've ever dealt with in my life. And that until the moment he decided to stop pushing drugs on people that don't need them, then he is going to continue being a horrible, horrible doctor. And I haven't took meds since. That's not true. I got prescribed lorazepams by a normal doctor for quite a while there. But my boyfriend I had at the time kept stealing them from me, so I got cut off. And I haven't had them since. So I've been without meds since 2017. And I'll tell you right now, besides during the times where my now ex-boyfriend was driving me insane, I've been just fine. Smoke weed. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do anything else. I just smoke weed. That's also not true. I do microdosing on mushrooms once in a while. Like maybe twice a year. If that. Depends on how I'm feeling. But otherwise I feel just fine. See. And I let this continue.
Totally work on my mental health, following every new tool for coping to the letter, only to have my symptoms get worse, which made me frustrated, raise the intensity of my treatment, only to get even more frustrated as my body seemed to deteriorate. After 6 months, I told my mum I'd happily saw off my own leg with a blunt knife if it meant my symptoms would vanish, and I meant it. I told her if I had to live with this strange feeling for one more year, I'd kill myself, and I meant that too. But something happened that winter which showed me firsthand the horrors and the fallout from suicide. I met Joe when I was 9 years old. I remember the first time clearly. I was standing in his living room when he turned to me and he was like, "Watch this." Then he proceeded to climb on top of his sofa and did a front flip onto a stone living room floor. He landed on his back and lay motionless for a few seconds before grinning, getting up, and then doing it all over again. We grew up terrorizing the streets of the small village we grew up in, playing knock door run or breaking into people's gardens to play on their trampolines. We stayed friends throughout high school, going through various phases together. Joe was comedian of the group. I remember countless mornings after messy all-nighters, Joe would be cracking endless jokes like a professional stand-up routine, and we'd all be in tears laughing.
Biden and Kamala have failed Nevada families, creating sky-high inflation and opening our border to
When I started writing
So frustrating. YouTube stuff.
my first songs, Joe and Sega were the first people who always knew every word, and they would sing along at the top of their lungs. They gave me a lot of self-belief, and they helped me build the foundation of what I do today, and I owe them a lot for that. That Christmas, I came back home to Wales from university. On Christmas Eve, me and Joe were sat in a pub, and he turned to me, and he told me that he'd fantasized about walking into the sea until he was totally submerged. He had a pretty morbid sense of humor, so I didn't really take him as seriously as I should have. 2 days later, it's 3 a.m. and I get a phone call. It's my friend Ella. She tells me that Joe is on the bridge by my house. He was drunk, he'd called her up, and he told her he was going to jump. I was still half asleep. I fumbled, pulling on whatever clothes I could that were near, and I walked out of the front door, and the winter air stung my face, and it woke me up. Adrenaline kicked in, and I started sprinting towards the bridge. It was about a 5-minute walk, a 2.5-minute sprint. As I was running, I dialed Joe's number, and I get a busy tone, and I felt relief because it meant he was still alive. I kept hitting redial as I ran, and as I got about halfway to the bridge, the busy tone changes. I get an automated voice note saying the number's out of service, and my heart sunk. I got to the suspension bridge that connects Anglesey to the mainland, and it usually looks very beautiful. I sprint up and down the bridge yelling Joe's name, and there's silence, and it's deafening. And I peer over the bridge into the blackness, and the bridge sits about 100 feet above the water. Hitting cold water at that height is like smashing into concrete. And the waters are notoriously dangerous because of the cross current. I hear nothing, no sounds, nothing. I run up and down the bridge about 2 times before I spot a figure at the end of it, and my heart jumps into my throat, and I run towards the figure, and it's my friend Ricky who's had the same call, and we both run around up and down the bridge and around the surrounding area looking for Joe. More of his friends eventually arrive, and there's nothing. I was about a minute too late. We spent the next week walking up and down beaches with flashlights. And when it's that dark, every other large rock starts to look like a washed up body. We plastered all the neighboring towns in missing posters, contacting whoever we could, someone who might know something. We checked bank records to see if any money had been withdrawn since he went missing. There was CCTV footage of him walking onto the bridge, but there wasn't any of him coming off. But there were dead zones in the footage, so there was still a small chance he could be alive. I was sleeping about 3 hours a night, pretty determined that we'd still find him. For about 10 days, we had nothing. And then suddenly a call comes through while we're all at my friend Miles's house having food. It's the police. A body had been found in the water by the bridge. We piled into my friend's car. I remember being in the back seat in floods of tears, repetitively punching the back of the passenger seat as we drove to the scene. As we pull up, I saw a lifeless body being zipped up into a green bag near a parked ambulance. Its skin was bloated by the seawater, and it wasn't Joe. Someone else decided to jump that day. Joe was never found. It's difficult to truly let go when you can't say goodbye. For months following, I held on to this fantasy that we'd get a call that he'd run away to some European town and he was happy and he was healthy. But that call never came. The time during his inquest was also around the time I was struggling with the side effects of a new antidepressant. I remember sitting in the courtroom feeling like I was listening to the whole thing deep underwater. The judge felt the circumstances surrounding Joe's death didn't mean The judge felt that the circumstances surrounding Joe's death meant that the verdict was left open. It kind of stung even more to not have an official ruling of suicide. I remember going to visit his mum not long after and witnessing the aftermath of a mother grieving for her baby boy. The silence of his father, the tears of his mother. I decided that day that I'd have to wait until my illness killed me because I couldn't do it by choice. I couldn't put my family through that. Over the next 10 years, I returned to my hometown only a handful of times following Joe's death. My last visit was in the summer of last year. I reconnected with Joe's parents and showed them a song that I'd written, simply entitled For Joe. We cried together, reminisced together, joked, and I'm proud to say that I gave Joe's mum enough money to afford a caravan she told me she'd been saving up for. I felt pretty good. We'd also do a fundraiser for the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, who were integral for searching for Joe during that time, and we raised a pretty good amount of money too. Being able to give back in whatever small way I could felt good, and it felt right for all the years Joe had made us all laugh till it hurt. He was a solid person, just a little lost, as we all are sometimes. And I miss him. Life was about to take an even more unusual turn, and I was about to meet the first angel of this story. So stay tuned for that.
Oh, man. Damn, that got me. I cannot express how many times I have been in some situation, and that is just so heartbreaking. People think suicide is the easiest way out, but while it may be easy for the person, sorry, I live in an airport. While it may be easy for the person, it's not easy for the family at all, or any loved ones at all. And unfortunately, most people don't take that into consideration. That's why I actually like the show 13 Reasons Why. To delve more deeper in that, I really wish they would have continued it. I mean, they might have, I just don't know about it yet, but as far as I know, they stopped it. So there's still some time left on this. I'm just going to play it for longer and see if there's more.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
The alarming spike in inflation soaring to its highest level in nearly 4.
It's hard to take off from the ground when your wings are cut. Your stomach burns when you're drinking from an empty cup. You know the entire ocean came from my tear ducts. I see the world through Fibonacci sequences and double Dutch. I guess there's some that's born lucky, there's some that's not. I tried to cut away my bitterness, hatchet job. I locked my youth inside the trunk, inside the pickup truck, then dumped that whole thing over that same bridge the night you jumped. I think about that sometimes, vividly. What it felt like to look down and see tranquility. One sudden movement in a world of possibility. Only one movement to expose our fragility. I fucking miss you, and I miss myself. I miss thinking we were indestructible as hell. I miss chilling by the pier cave and kicking back with Callum, Hugo, Justin, Sega, Stevie and the fucking lads. I miss missing that. I numb myself to close the gap. I never even call them up. Distance is my plaster cast to tell the truth. The day you jumped, my childhood jumped too. But I still can't find the anger. All I find is missing you, man, I miss you. With all my rhymes, I picture running 5 minutes quicker, I'm right on time. I picture pulling you back over the edge and then we're crying. And holding you, my brother, and telling you that it's fine, not the way that it worked. I was late like a jerk, there's not a day where I can find a way to break from the hurt. Your body missing, so we never got to wave to the hearse. I hope you're listening, I love you, man, I miss you, absurd, fuck. Born, another domino, it falls. Across the way another's born. How you're supposed to raise a child and give it courage from a storm. In a world that is confusing, contradictions pave our flaws. Some will say we're only human, others judge us for our flaws. Some get born in sheets of satin, some get by in tattered clothes. Some will die before they live, that's just how the story goes. But for those of us still with us, who reside inside our hearts, tell them proudly how you feel. And for those of us who aren't, freckled angels stand strong, freckled angels live on, freckled angels climb higher, freckled angels still inspire, freckled angels won't forget you, teach me to live my life better. 13 years and still I miss you, now my wings are missing feather. Otherwise I'd come and join you, but for now I'm here on earth, stuck inside this mortal body. But for everything it's worth, made me braver, made me wiser, made me stronger, made me true, made me face the world with courage. And that's all because of you. Freckled angels laugh the hardest, and their hearts, they are the largest. With their wings, they fly the farthest. So I know you're gonna be okay. Freckled angels live the longest, and their minds, they are the strongest. Oh, their friends, they are the fondest. So I know you're gonna be okay.
That was beautiful. I have dogs too, sorry. I look forward to doing chapter 2. I won't do it right now, because I feel like this video's already taken long enough. I still need to work. And while I work online, doing webcamming, it doesn't make anything easier, right? Slow timeline. I saw a couple people pop in here once in a while I was listening to it, and they didn't say anything, so that's okay. Man, I just tore my heart. I'm gonna have to play something from here. See if I can find something else to listen to before I leave. Oh, there's a lot of chapters that one. I just saw that. Holy shit. This is a video that I personally like, and I think it's very fitting with this.
Kamala Harris never backs down from a tough fight, taking on violent criminals and predatory banks.
Can't stand ads. I swear to God. They literally drive me insane. Okay.
I miss my old emotions. I miss the pain I used to have. I'm going through the motions. I'd sell my soul to make me sad. I needed something to help me get through. I wanted something And the doctor said to take this pill, you'll feel much better when you wake up numb and your brain's been severed and your heartbeat won't be based on the weather when you sell yourself to me. Took your peace, your pain, your pleasure, and I left you with one face forever. You won't hurt anymore. Be careful what you wish for. Something is missing, this predisposition. I feel like I'm living inside of my head. How can they sell you on something to help you, then tell you it might make you wish you were? I needed something to help me get through. I wanted something, and the doctor said to take this pill, you'll feel much better when you wake up numb and your brain's been severed and your heartbeat won't be based on the weather when you sell yourself to me. Took your peace, your pain, your pleasure, and I left you with one face forever. You won't hurt anymore. Be careful what you wish for. Be careful, be careful, be careful what you wish for. Be careful, be careful, be careful what you wish for.